All right, everybody. Welcome to Friday night's second race. The first race was really good. Out of the two, this one is the one that got chose for YouTube, but really good race in the first race. We had Mike Jones coming away with the win, Mike Doherty coming in second, John Snow in third, Jesse Albert in fourth, Andre Marchician in fifth, Kyle Macedo in sixth, David Macedo in seventh, Pedro Perez in eighth, Michael Mack in ninth, and Samuel Rock in 10th. So that was the running order for race number one. And now we're going to get into race number two. These guys are really fast around this track. It's a tough track. You know, I've always been a fan of Zolder, and I think some of the guys in the group really like Zolder, but it's a very challenging track to pass on. Not a lot of great passing areas, and there are a lot of very difficult chicanes that cause problems for guys, especially when you're racing closely with somebody else. So a lot of good racing so far this weekend. Hoping to keep it going here with this race. We are looking at, they should be getting off the line here pretty soon. We're going to be running, this race will be 21 laps. So 21 lap race. Of course, we race timed races, but since it doesn't show the time on the replay, we're just going to go by laps. So 21 laps will be this race. We see Mike Jones leading everybody off the line, followed by John Snow, followed by Mike Doherty, Andre Marchician, David Macedo, Kyle Macedo, Jesse Albert, Pedro Perez, Michael Mack, and Samuel Rock. So we've got a few new guys with us this weekend. We look forward to seeing them race and seeing what these guys can do. We have a couple of people that didn't make it this weekend. Hopefully they'll be here tomorrow. They didn't make it Friday night. Hopefully they'll be here for Saturday's race, but that remains to be seen. So in practice and qualifying, Jesse Albert showed a lot of speed, but during qualifying he had something come up and was only able to put down one lap. So he qualified 7th, but he has a lot of speed. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the race. Mike Jones, really fast. He's a new driver with us. We don't know much about him, but he's shown a lot of speed so far in that Honda. And of course, then we have the regulars up front. We got John Snow, Mike Doherty, Andre Marchician, both of the Macedos, and then Jesse Albert, who's been fast every time he's ever ran with us, is up towards the front also. So should be a really intense race. You see these guys kind of spaced out, warming up their tires and their brakes and everything, but they're getting closer now to where they got to form up. So we're going to see them start to form up here. Last couple of corners before the start of the race. The first couple of laps of race one were really intense. Very close racing. A lot of speed on a very tight track. So I think that's the best way to explain Zolder, is it is a very tight track. Here we come down the front stretch. And there's the green flag. So they're off and going. You see Mike Jones leading them down the inside here. John Snow and Mike Doherty are side by side coming into the second turn there. A lot of side-by-side racing back in the pack. You see David Macedo pulled up alongside Marchician for a minute there. Kyle Macedo has jumped up. He is, I think, currently running in 4th. Yeah, he's running in 4th. You see Jesse Albert and Andre Marchician right on him, and then Pedro Perez and Michael Mack right behind him. So really close right here. Guys just trying to survive these first lap or two, first couple laps. You see Mike Jones has pulled a little bit of a gap between him and second place. Mike Doherty looks like he's reeling in John Snow a little bit. Let's jump back a little bit. We got Marchician and Albert have both gotten past Macedo. What happened to Macedo? Let's take a look at that. Take a look back real quick. Oh, Macedo just got on the curbing coming up the hill here. Got loose, lucky to save it, but that's going to cost him a ton of speed coming down the front stretch, and both of these guys are going to capitalize on that. You see Jesse way down on the inside right there in that Lexus. He's able to keep it tight though. So that's going to put Kyle back into fifth place or 6th place. I'm not sure if it's showing the right positions right now, but at least 5th place. Meanwhile, up towards the front, you see Mike Jones still leading the race. John Snow's closed down on him some and actually pulled away from Mike Doherty a little bit. So John Snow keeping the pressure on Mike Jones. In the first race, Mike Jones was under pressure the entire race and he never cracked under that pressure. He managed to hold first place through the entire race. We'll see if he's got what it takes to do it here. You see him coming down through that long braking zone. Everybody looks nice and tight through there. Let's take a look back. Marchician, he's got Albert all over him. Albert looks down the inside coming into this long braking zone, and he ends up backing out of it. Doesn't make the move there. These guys are racing really close. You see Albert come all the way up by the wall. Macedo pulls in behind him, trying to slipstream off of him. Albert looking around the outside and actually makes the pass. Got a good enough run down the front stretch to make that pass around the outside. And now we're going to see if he can make it stick. And Marchician is right on him. Really close racing by these guys. Andre trying to see if he can touch his bumper to that rear wing of that Lexus. Really close there. We know Jesse's got a lot of speed on this track. We'll see if these guys can keep up with him now that he's gotten past them. You see that chicane right there, everybody jumping that bumper. It's been a problem area all weekend so far. Guys getting too much of that curb and it's ruined their races, or at least messed them up. Let's take a look back up the front. John Snow, he's putting the pressure on Mike Jones. You see Doherty there in 3rd, but he's got a little bit of a gap, a little over 2 seconds now between him and John Snow. Snow didn't show as much speed in the first race as he is right now in the second race, but he also kind of got caught up in traffic. I don't know if he used up his tires and just didn't have a lot to offer by the time he finally got into clean air. But he's showing really good speed right now. Mike Jones opened that gap back up a little bit, though. Mike is really consistent around this track. You know, this is our first time racing with Mike. We don't really know what his driving style is or what tracks he's good or bad at or anything like that. So a little bit of a mystery, but he showed up here this week and just was fast. Just fast all week through practice. Now tonight during the practice races on Friday night, and we look forward to seeing what he can do tomorrow in the big race. So you see the gap there from John Snow to Doherty has really opened up now. Doherty falling back on these guys a little bit. Doherty was a lot stronger in the first race as far as pace than he has been in this race so far. So either that or the leaders have gotten faster. I'm not sure which one, but Doherty doesn't look quite as strong right now. But we know Mike Doherty, he wins with consistency. So there's a lot of racing left. A lot of things can change over the next 18 laps, so we'll see what happens here. Let's take a look back at these guys a little bit behind them. Albert's still in front of Marcheshin, and Macedo's still behind him. Marcheshin and Macedo battling a little bit here. Jesse Albert, he's got a lot of speed in that Lexus. He's pulling a little bit of a gap on these guys. He's got a long way to go to catch the leaders, though. He's about 4.5 seconds behind Mike Doherty, and Doherty's 2 seconds behind the 2 leaders. So you see Kyle Macedo nice and close on Marcheshin here. Macedo showed a lot of speed during practice throughout the week, but I wasn't really sure what to expect from him in the races tonight. He had an incident in the first race that put him out of the race for a good bit. So we hope to see... Oh, no, and then he gets loose there and puts it in the wall. Oh, my gosh. Kyle Macedo, and he's in the pits. Let's take a look at what happened there. Looked like he just got too much of that curbing on the chicane right there. He's coming down into this hard braking zone. Just goes straight over the curb and catches quite a bit of air there and just ends up straight into the wall. So that's unfortunate for him. Meanwhile, up here in the front, we got John Snow, who's still trying to hunt down Mike Jones. Jones is running really good laps. We'll start looking at lap times here in a minute. We're 4 laps into the race. Meanwhile, you see Doherty. He's still within reach of these guys. Either one of them or both of them make a mistake, he's going to be all over them. So he's not out of it. He's just not quite challenging Snow right now with pace. When you take a look at Albert, you see the gap from Albert to Doherty is pretty large. So we'll see what Jesse can do here. We know he's faster than Doherty on this track. At least he was in practice and in qualifying. Well, not qualifying, but in practice he was faster. We'll see what he can do over the next, 16 laps or so. So go back to Marcheshin. Here's the gap from Marcheshin to Jesse. Pretty decent gap there. And then from there, the field kind of spreads out. 10 seconds behind him is Pedro Perez, and you see Pedro followed by David Macedo. And these guys are slowing down in the middle of the track. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it looks like Pedro was trying to let him go, and David didn't take the position. So, Pedro, he's the one of the newest drivers we have, and I mean not new in the league, but I mean new to driving at all. He's only a few weeks into his journey as a sim racer, and he's really improved a ton since he's been with us. And we kind of all root for Pedro. That's no doubt why David wasn't eager to take the position, just wants to race him. So some good racing by those guys. We'll check on Michael Mack here in the Aston Martin. Him and Samuel Rock back here in the back. These guys they're now in front of Kyle Macedo, though, because Kyle had that incident. So we're 21 laps is long enough that these guys are going to start getting caught by the leaders eventually. So they'll have to deal with some faster cars on what is a really tight track. So that's going to be interesting for us to see. Meanwhile, you go back to the front here. We got Jon Snow still trying to catch the leader. He's been all over him pretty much the entire race. Jones pulled a little bit of a lead early at the very beginning of the race, kind of gapped him a little bit, and you kind of wondered if he was going to be able to just run away with it. But since then, Snow has stayed right within reach of him the entire time. And you see Albert back there. Jesse Albert is down to 2.6 seconds off of Doherty, so he's run him down pretty good. That's going to be an interesting battle as this race unfolds. Doherty is a hard pass. It's hard to get past him once you catch him. He's extremely consistent. Doesn't really overly defend. He's just really consistent, and he's fast enough that it's really hard to pass him. You see Albert coming through here up the hill. Look at the onboard in the Lexus. The Lexus is a really good sounding car. I love being on board with it just because the way it sounds. Same thing with the Porsche. Those two cars and the Lambo, those three cars all sound incredible when you're riding on board. So, but you can say that about pretty much every car in this sim. They all have a great engine note. Really, they did a fantastic job on the sounds for this game. You see Jesse get quite a bit of the curbs there, but the car manages to handle it without any real fuss, so that's pretty good. You can see he's gaining time slowly on Doherty. Let's check back up front with Snow. Snow has fallen back off the leader a little bit now. He's about 2 seconds behind him. We're now a third of the way into the race, so we've got about 14 laps to go. These guys, at this pace, it's going to feel like no time before we're at the end of the race. So they're no doubt feeling pressure. If you're going to catch the guy in front, you got to do it now. 14 laps is a long time, but at the same time, it's not very long. A track like this, it's hard to pass anyway. So when you catch somebody, it's going to take a while to get around them. So you see Snow just nice and smooth, man. Snow has really become one of the most consistent drivers in our league. He doesn't ever seem to make mistakes, and he's just very consistent in his driving. Seems to always be in the right gear at the right time. Inside a lot of times on turns where other guys struggle to keep the car on the inside of the turn. You see, it looks like Jones made a little mistake there. Snow closing the gap on him a little bit. He's going to close it down pretty good coming through here. Meanwhile, behind this, Albert has got the lead down to 1.6 seconds for Doherty. So we got two good battles going on at the same time right now. Let's take a look on board with Albert. Yeah, he's caught, or almost caught, Mike Doherty. So quite a battle here. We're going to try to watch them both if we can. So Albert, he got gapped a little bit right there. Doherty kind of pulled back away from him. So we'll get back on board with Snow. Snow's not the most aggressive driver. He doesn't really make aggressive passes. He doesn't make a lot of aggressive laps where he's just pushing the car harder than what is responsible. He's more going to kill you with his steady hand, and he's going to wait for you to make a mistake. We saw a minute ago where Mike Jones made a mistake and Snow was all over him. This was where it happened, right here, coming through these two bumpers here. Jones did a lot better job there getting through without any trouble. And these two guys are gapping the guys behind. Doherty is back to 4.6 seconds behind Snow. So first and second, I've got a little bit of a gap between them and second and third. Let's take a look back. We got David Macedo back here. He's in front of Pedro. Oh, and David gets loose coming through the chicane, and Pedro's going to take the position back. So good driving by Pedro. Now David's got his hands full, going to have to try to catch him. Let's take a look back here. This one's under a second again. Albert up on Doherty. You see Albert is nice and smooth. I don't know if he's as smooth as Doherty, but he's a little bit faster than Doherty, so that's the caveat. He might not be quite as consistent. Well, he really caught a lot of... He's got his car set up really nice. You see how much bumper he caught there. He really caught a lot of the curving and just smoothly went through there. Most of these guys cannot take that much of a cut on those corners, because we saw like what happened to Kyle Macedo. His car just would not do it. It ended up going airborne and causing an incident. So we've got two really good battles. We got Jesse Albert on Mike Doherty, and John Snow has caught Mike Jones in the front. Really intense battles here going on at the same time. Take a look on the TV cameras just how close these guys are. Snow's been threatening him all race. He's been putting the heat on him, but he just hasn't been able to actually put a challenge move yet. He's just caught him. He hasn't been able to do anything with him once he catches him. So we'll see what happens here. This chicane coming up is where Mike Jones had an issue before, and John caught him. So you got to be really careful when you got a guy right on you like this. You'll lose the position even with a small mistake. You see in the background back there, and Mike was really smooth through there that time, but John is still right on him. You see in the background back there, Albert has caught Doherty, and he's all over him. Really, really close coming down the hill here. Looks to the outside, which is going to become the inside, and Doherty just backs out of it. He takes the long way through the chicane there, and Jesse's going to take the position. So I don't know if Doherty just overshot that turn or if he just thought Jesse was going to get into him. Not real sure what happened there, but conceded the position either way. And so now Jesse sets his sights on the leaders. I don't know. He's got about 10 laps left. I don't know if he's got enough time to catch these guys in the front because they're really fast. Meanwhile, Snow chasing Mike Jones down the front stretch, just looking for any kind of mistake, any kind of window to make a move on Jones. But Jones has been consistent and he's been fast. He hasn't had anybody challenge him in the first two races of the weekend. This is the second race where he was under pressure a lot, but even though he was under pressure in the first race, Doherty never put a move on him because he never had the opportunity. He couldn't quite catch him enough to make a move on him. So you see Samuel Rock up ahead there, so the leaders are going to have to deal with him coming up here in just a couple of corners. We try to coach up all of our guys. If you're the slower car, let the faster guys go, but that's not always easy, especially on a track like this where there's not a lot of room to pass. We see Samuel going over the hill there, coming down into this hard braking zone. Mike Jones has now caught him. And you see John Snow run a little wide there. You see the blue flags telling Samuel to let him go, but you have to do so safely. You can't just pull off the track. Well, Samuel does pull off the track. He ends up off the track going through the chicane and lets both of these guys go. So lucky there's no incident there. That did widen the gap between Mike Jones and John Snow, so that gap has opened up a little bit. I don't know if Snow was just being extra cautious coming through there with a car off the track, but he is going to have to make up some time. Meanwhile, we got Jesse Albert still followed by Doherty. Doherty hasn't lost touch with him. I thought once Albert got past him, he might have pulled away, but he's not really leaving him behind necessarily. And now they're about to have to deal with Mr. Rock here. Coming down this long straight into the hard braking zone, the first chicane. You see Samuel get through there nice and clean. You see Jesse really take a lot of that curb on. Really tough there. He's got that Lexus set up nicely where he can do it. And he's looking to get around him right now. Samuel just trying to run his race, which is how we've coached these guys in our drivers' meetings and everything else, is just run your race. When there's an open opportunity, when it's a straightaway or something, just let them go. And this is where he let the other guys go. He's going to let them go right here. You see Doherty run a little bit wide trying to get around him, but he's going to get up the hill cleanly and get the inside for turn one. So that's going to be the position for Doherty as well. Well, not position, but the place on the track for Doherty as well. So right now, John Snow is 2.9 off the leader. Let's see if we've got any other battles going on back here in the pack. Andre Marchishin is 10 seconds behind Doherty, and he's a ways ahead of Pedro Perez, so he's kind of in no man's land out here all by himself. Pedro is still running with David Macedo. He's got about a 2-second lead on Macedo. And then we just saw Samuel a minute ago. Kyle Macedo is back on the track. He's 3 laps down, but he's out here finishing the race, which we're happy to see. We appreciate when guys finish the race, no matter what happens. So he's out here putting out some laps. You see him still catching a big chunk of that curbing right there. Alright, so back to the front. Mike Jones still holding on to it. John Snow 2.1 seconds behind him. Jesse Albert is now 6.7 seconds behind John Snow. So he's got about 6 laps left. Unless one of these guys makes a big mistake, Albert is probably not going to have enough time to catch him. So a little bit of space between most of the cars on the track right now. Nobody challenging for position at the moment, as you see Albert back there coming down the hill. Let's take a look on board with John. He's got quite a bit of quite a bit of a gap to make up right now. It says 1.6 seconds, but just from looking at it, it looks like a bigger gap than that. See what the updated split is here in a minute. Mike Jones doing a really good job at holding that gap. And you see they're both opening the gap on Jesse Albert. He's down to 7.4 seconds behind these guys, so he's fallen back a little bit. Doherty's now 2 seconds behind Albert. Keep an eye on that as John gets a little out of control for a second there coming through the chicane, but manages to hold it together. You see Jones is really fast through that part of the track right there, able to gap him again. It seems like the first sector is where Snow makes up his time on Mike Jones, and then the last sector is where Jones kind of pulls away again. So we'll see what happens on this lap. We've got about 5 laps to go. These guys have been on these tires for 16 laps around here, so tire wear is no doubt starting to play a factor for everybody. But the lap times are still good. The last lap for Snow was 1:29.5. See what the last lap time was for Mike Jones. It was a 1:29.8, so he was a little slower. So Snow is making up ground on him slowly. Take a look at Albert, 1:29.4, so he was even faster last lap. For Doherty, it was a 1:31.5. Not his best lap of the race for sure, but he's got his hands full trying to catch Albert anyway. I don't know if Mike has the pace this race to catch up to him. He was definitely quicker in the first race. So look on board with Snow. He's now got it down to a second again. So Mike Jones, he's not able to put him away. Snow he just keeps catching back up to him. So with 4 laps to go, does Snow have anything for Mike Jones? John gets into 5th gear right there in that spot. I don't think most of these guys are doing that. Most of them are holding it down with 4th gear. John likes to flick it into 5th and then right back down to 3rd. So you see John coming through there. He kind of caught up again on Mike Jones, bringing the lead back down. We're going to stay with this battle right now as John, climbing the hill, gets a little loose there but holds on to it and the gap opens up again. So you see just one little mistake from either of these guys affects this battle quite a bit. You see John nice and smooth through there. This is where throughout the race, he's kind of caught up to Mike Jones is through this sector right here. This chicane has given Mike Jones a little bit of trouble throughout the race. Catches quite a bit of curb and Snow closes down on him again. So that spot right there is his Achilles heel. He's going to want to try to get that figured out before Saturday's big race, because other than that, he's really fast around this track. He's really quick through this little section right here too. You see Snow trying to hold on to him. We got about 2 laps to go. 2 laps to go, and these guys are battling for the lead. John nice and consistent through here, and here comes the trouble spot for Mike Jones. This is where the time is usually made up for John Snow, but John Snow's already on him this time, so Mike's really going to have to hit this chicane just right, or he's going to lose the lead of the race on the last lap of the race. Coming down into the chicane, he catches a lot of the curb and slows down, but Snow couldn't get around him, so he ended up slowing down with him. So that might have been his opportunity right there. I don't know if Mike Jones is going to give him any more chances. He's right on him coming through the next chicane, up around the hill here. Mike Jones, like he has all race long, pulls a little bit of a gap through this little section. Coming down to the back of the track. Snow right up on him again. Mike Jones really doing a good job of making that Honda look really fast. Through the last chicane, up the hill, and Mike Jones is going to pull it out. Last lap of the race, you see the checkered flag. There is the win for Mike Jones. And now we're going to take a look on board with Albert. He's coming across the line in third. Mike Doherty had fallen behind him quite a bit, so he's coming in fourth. Andre Martishan, pretty big gap from him behind Doherty. He's coming up the hill here. Gonna try to finish it. He's gonna end up with a top 5 finish. A good race by Martishan. Now we got Pedro, who's still leading David Macedo. Coming down to the final chicane. And he is letting Macedo go. Macedo's been kind of playing cat and mouse with him throughout the race, but Pedro wants him to finish ahead. So here they come down the front stretch. Great job by both of these guys, and Macedo slams on the brakes, and that's the end of the race there. But Macedo trying to give up the position, but he actually failed to give up the position. So it was Macedo, then Perez, then Samuel Rock, then Kyle Macedo. So like I always do, as you guys know, I like to show the beginning of the race. As the reason for a good race, you have to have a good start. And we want to look at how good of a job these guys did keeping it under control. You're talking about 2 wide through some really risky parts of the track here. We got 2 wide all the way back to 6th place. See everybody trying to sort each other out without being too aggressive. See Doherty get a little wide there, and Kyle gets right up on him, manages to hold it together, and then coming down to this first chicane, this is a very high-speed area. You see Jesse Albert jump out of line there, but how tight the braking is for everybody. They're able to pull it off. Jesse actually lost the position by jumping out like that because he got off the racing line. He had to pull out of it. So, but these guys kept it clean throughout the race. Really good job by them. Really good race by all these guys. Couldn't be happier with the result. Congratulations to Mike Jones on the win, John Snow on second, and Mike Doherty or excuse me, not Mike Doherty. Jesse Albert finishing in third. Congratulations to those guys on podium finish. And great race tonight, guys. We'll see everybody tomorrow on Saturday night's big race. Thanks for watching.